200 accounts or something from no ID.
$40,
30 accounts. Does that include the registration, the domain name registration?
It's just to do dynamic.
Okay. Yeah. So the domain name registration, I think they have an added service where they'll register it for you if you wanted to register your company name. That's another way to do it. We do still support that, but the Hikvision dynamic DNS service is currently going away. So, any questions so far?
If we own the device as an account, do we be able to reset the admin password on the box if they log?
To reset the admin password, you actually have to have, if you want to do it remotely, you have to remote into a PC on the same network. If you're there on their local network, you have to use, for those of you who've done it, what do we use? SADC?
Yeah, but we cannot just remotely using their master account to reset the
Unfortunately. The password for the recorder is totally different. Yeah.
The shared user has the same functionality as the owner.
Yeah. Once you share the device, they can
control, they can change.
Through the web, you do have to log in with the password. So to your question before. So if you're accessing the system through the web, yes, there's an additional level of password. So the shared function through HiConnect, you still have the same access. It's just the reference of the device and take away the ownership of port forwarding and all that other stuff.
For setup for web viewer access on a laptop, after you've gone through a DDNS, obviously you don't scan a QR code, right?
The web access?
Yeah.
So once it's linked to the account, the customer name at yahoo.com, you're going to go to hike-connect.com, log in as customer name at yahoo.com with their credentials, and the device just populates. There's no additional setup.
Right, so I'm just curious how that works without doing port forwarding.
Oh, it's peer-to-peer.
Oh, so
Behind the scenes?
Right. So initially, the first thing you want to do is set up like your mobile device, and then afterwards.
Yeah, the easiest thing is just to set up. 99% of customers that I've encountered, they're just looking at the phone, and they get bored of it after 2 weeks.
So are there levels of sharing so you don't give somebody full access to it? Like if you want somebody to just...
Well, the additional permissions are going to come through the user account on here. So that'll tell you, you know, if you really want to dictate and micromanage who can do what, that happens on the recorder. This is just accessing the recorder.
No, I mean for the owner to do the...
Yeah, we'll get it.
You can still set this up with the static IP so that you can access...
Yep, absolutely. A static IP is king. If you get a static IP, then you don't have to worry about anything. You got a phone number that doesn't change, essentially. That's what it comes down to. That's the ideal way of doing it. Dynamic Connect is a Band-Aid. HiConnect is, we got sick of maintaining servers, so we just said, Amazon, you deal with it. That's how we think. So we're a hardware company. That's what we're good at. We don't want to get in the server maintenance business more than we have to. Only if you're doing dynamic DNS, not with HiConnect. No ports with HiConnect? Yes, PART4. Yep.
Do you have to enable the NAT?
No, universal plug and play, or as I like to call it, plug and pray, is the devil. Turn it off on the router if you can.
Yeah.
So, I have not seen good things with that.
With the NAT?
Yeah, you're talking about, that, right?
Yeah.
Stay away. Stay away. Because it will work one day, it won't work the next, and you're going to scratch your head and wonder why.
I used it because I could get it to the optimum router. The customer didn't like have optimum.
I've heard some guys swear by it. I'm like, okay, do you think? But it's not for me. I don't recommend it. But it is there, like universal plug and play, occasionally.
If you share with multiple users,
Yeah.
will the system log which user had access? Which shared user had access?
It'll log which user logs in from the web or 4200, but if it's just like a HiConnect share, I don't think it'll tell you. I mean, it'll show you in the logs maybe where
It was done, but not by whom?
user admin logged in from XYZ. Because, again, with the web, you gotta think of it as a two-step login. First, you're logging into the HiConnect website. Then you're clicking on the shared device. You're gonna get the web interface like you would with DNS, just the normal login for the recorder. That's where the login comes in, where you're logging in as admin or whoever.
A lot of the other manufacturers have like limitations when you log in remotely over the web, where you can't do certain things. If you have 100% access, can you like reset the DVR, the NVR remotely? You have limitations.
We'll get into that in user. Yeah. I think it's 50 in addition to the admin. If you want to administer 15 accounts, be my guess. But I try to group it into smaller functions, like officers or teachers. One user account owns the device. One email account owns the device. You can share it with multiple users. All right, so moving forward, we went over general. Network, we went over. I think we covered all the questions on that. Hard drives, you don't have to buy them from us, but if you buy them elsewhere, we use Western Digital Purple. They're designed to spin all day, unlike the green drive, so explode. Not really. Okay. Here, live view. So basically for the customer's live view, again, this goes back to your initial walkthrough when you say, how do you intend to view the system? You're going to review, if the customer wants 16 cameras up at once, if they want 2 cameras up, if they want, 1 camera sequencing at a time at an interval of 5 seconds. All that's done under system configuration live view. So for example, if I wanted 1 camera at a time, I would just switch from my 2x2 grid to 1x1, and I would switch every 5 seconds. And if that meets their requirement, that meets their requirement. You can mess with all those features here. With the event output, again, this particular NVR has synchronous output, meaning VGA is getting the same thing as HDMI. But in other units, you would be able to specify event output, whether it's VGA or HDMI, et cetera, okay? The view setting. So if I want to mess with the view, if the customer says, well, I want the camera in the lower right to be in the upper left, you can mess with that here if you want to, but really the easiest way to do it is from the main screen. So if I back out and I pull up my cameras here, if I want this camera in the lower right quadrant, I click, I drag, I drop, they flip, they save. Got it.
Let's switch on reset.
Yes, it's saved.
On the playback recording, would it, camera number 4, replace camera number 1, or how the recording will take place?
No, it's still considered, so if you look at your camera setup, you see D1 through 4?
Yeah.
No matter where I put them on the screen, D1 is D1. That is the camera plugged into the first port. That's just virtually flipping them around the screen to appease your customer.
There's any way to raise it or redo it?
Well, that brings up a good point. In the IP world, a lot of guys still have that analog mindset where they're going behind the recorder and unplugging cameras and reordering them. Every time you do that, it's kind of like taking a PC, yanking the power cord out, and then putting it in another outlet. What happens when you do that with Windows? The system did not shut down properly, blah, 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 blah. Same thing happens with cameras. The switch remembers which ports the camera was stuck in based on its MAC address. Okay, so when you start flipping them around, you might cause an issue. I've seen it before. Best bet, label your cables before you start calling them, and so you know which goes where and you plug them in the right way the first place. If that doesn't work for you, you can get an idea of which is where, and you can flip virtually. If you have to put them in a certain order, again, the best way is to label your cables, rather than unplugging, replugging, and doing that all day.
You label your cable on those MPOE. What you're using on the switch.
I'm sorry?
When you label the cable,
what are you trying to accomplish? How about that?
let's say, exactly like this. If you want to change, when you label the cable like number 1 to 4 on both MPOE, then as long as you put it back on the right spot, that will work.
What are you trying to accomplish?
To erase the whole number 1 and make it number 4. Make it go in order.
Why do you want to do that?
It happens in certain equations.
What?
It happens in certain times where a customer requests it.
So, is this not doing it for you?
It does do
This
it.
is camera
But when you
one.
go back on playback, let's say, oh, I was watching it on number 4, now I'm playing back on number 1. That's where it becomes like the mind trip.
Because they change the.
They should be looking at the name, not the camera number.
I agree 100%.
Well, before we drag
You
this
gotta
on too long,
remember,
let's get back to
most
this
people
work.
really don't look at the stuff that's written there. They're like, oh, look, cameras in 1, you know, oh, I'm supposed to be looking for playback on number 1. We know what's going on. The customers are just like, So, you know, there's no honesty behind it. Like, you know, customers are like, oh, this is number 1, so let me go and look at playback at number 1. They don't read the little tag.
You can't stick it.
It's like, it's not McDonald's where you order a Big Mac and it's a Big Mac all the time. This is, you know, people are flawed, and if we know what we're doing, people don't know what customers don't know what they're doing.
Clearly.
My advice is when you label the camera, put somewhere on the ID D1.
Yeah,
And then you know as the
yeah, but
installer.
still, yeah, as the installer, but as a customer, okay, oh, look, it's in slot 1. When you were showing it, the camera, oh yeah, you moved it to where the customer wants it, but now it's like, oh, customer thinks, oh, okay, number 1 to number 1. But you moved camera 4 to 1, and then 1 to 4, and the person's like, oh, look, it's slot 1, so let me look at the playback for number 1. That's what I'm trying to say.
Right,
like, you
but
know,
eventually
people-
you'll get the hang of it.
Yeah, eventually you get the hang of it, but when you get that phone call now, okay, you gotta come back out here, and I'm not paying you for a service call because you should have done this in the first place. You gotta look at that end, because, you know, your time's not free. You really want me to lay around with it?
Do the best you can.
I'm serious. Are you the one doing the LTS cameras?
All right, guys, the next step here we're gonna go over is exceptions. So there's 2 things over here that you want to take note of. They're event hints and exceptions. So event hints. That little orange triangle that appears in the lower left-hand corner, speaking of stupid customers, they may think that the NVR or DVR is about to melt through the desk when they see that little symbol down there, okay? So some of them are more neurotic than others. My advice is just turn it off completely, the easiest way to do that. By the way, most of the time, that just means that one of the cameras saw motion. That's all. But for our special customers, what we do is we go into exceptions and event hints. We can turn them off completely by unchecking that box, or we can be a little bit more surgical about it. If you want to scroll through all this and be really methodical about what they're notified about and whatnot, but I would just turn it off. It doesn't affect anything, it's just a notification. Okay, next is exceptions. The difference between hints and exceptions, hints is a little annoying icon, exceptions are things we can react to, okay? So, with exceptions, we have hard drive full, hard drive error, network disconnected, IP conflicted, illegal login, recording exception, and PoE power overload. So, with all those items, we can react. For example, if I have a hard drive error, I can select that, and the ways I can react are by audible warning, meaning you have to be within an earshot of the recorder, that charming little chirp we heard earlier. There's Notified Surveillance Center, which is a push notification to the mobile app. That's my personal favorite. It shows up like a text message. Send email, which again can get annoying because it'll just perpetuate itself indefinitely until the problem's fixed. Or trigger alarm output, meaning you can wire the relay out on this particular unit to an alarm panel and handle it that way. Okay? Everyone clear on that? Makes sense? Good. Okay, and lastly, we have user accounts. So this is actually logins for the NVR itself. This is not a HiConnect login. This is logins for the recorder. So I'm going to create an account named Joe, because I hate to type with a mouse, so I'm going to keep it simple. Joe's password, same requirement as the admin password, 8 characters, 11 numbers as a minimum, okay? Okay, there's guest and operator, they're slightly different in their access. We're just going to create an operator account now to keep things simple. You can lock the user down to a specific IP address, meaning they can only log in from, say they have a static IP on their laptop, their company laptop. You can make it so they can only log in from there. If you're really crazy, you can lock them down by a MAC address, which goes even further, more difficult to spoof.
And if you leave your zeros, it just works.
Zeros just means anybody. So once I've created the account, there's a permission section. So this is where you do your micromanagement, what Joe can and cannot do. So you have your local configuration in terms of what he can do with the menu system, your remote configuration in terms of what he can do there, and then finally your camera configuration, stating what Joe can do remotely with live view, local playback, remote playback, PTZ control, video export. Make sense? Cool. All right. Any questions on system configuration?
Which features would you block customers from being able to change? So that you don't have to.
Rather than answer, because it's kind of a broad question, that's a question you relay to your customer. You say, what do you want this guy to be able to do? Normally what happens, the way I've seen it play itself out, is the customer will say, all right, we have this guy that, he's kind of staring at this camera all day. We don't want him to look, we don't want him to have access to that specific one locally. And then when it gets a little bit more involved, sometimes they want him to have access to certain cameras when they're local to the site, and when they're away, they want to limit their access to, only seeing one or two, like entrance or whatever. But, to be honest, that's a better question to relay to your customer as far as, what they want, rather than just saying generally block all this or that.
What's on playback?
You can do that. So if you wanted Joe not to be able to see remote playback for camera 4, you would say, okay, remote playback, and take away camera 4, and hit apply. Now Joe can no longer see playback from camera 4. Okay, moving forward. So next is camera setup. We saw this briefly when we looked at the camera doing the firmware updates on cameras. Remember, we scroll all the way to the right to see the firmware version that's installed. If it needs to be upgraded, we'll download the necessary upgrade file and do the update. OSD stands for on-screen display. So this is where I like using titles to notify myself of which camera is which instead of numbers, instead of D1 through 4. So this is where you would type that information in. By default, everything is camera 1. Going to change this to LTS. Time and date settings, by default, are in the upper left-hand corner. Titles are in the lower right. You can move them wherever you like. If I want that over there, I can apply it, and that's fine. If I want to turn the time off completely, I have checked the necessary boxes to turn it off. Next, basic image settings, okay? So everyone's seen these before, brightness, contrast, saturation. For more advanced image settings, you actually have to log into the camera to make adjustments. What I mean by when I say advanced adjustments on image settings, wide dynamic range and adjustments to the IR settings. So for example, if you have a camera in a bar and it's staying in black and white mode all day long, worst case scenario, you can put the IR in schedule, but you have to dive into the camera to do it, okay? Has anyone done that before? Yes? Easy, Gordon? What do you think?
As long as you know the IP address, you're in business.
Right. So there's two ways to dive into the local camera. If you have a spare port on the built-in PoE switch, or if you're using the 9600 series, you have your external PoE switch, you can dive into that, use SAPP to find the camera in question. You can also use something called virtual host. Virtual host is a feature of backing system configuration that we skipped over, which is going to generate too many questions at a time. If you enable virtual host, it'll basically allow you to log into the web interface of the NVR. So let's say our NVR is 192.168.1.20. If we're on the customer's Wi-Fi, and that's on the same network, we'll type in 192.168.1.20. That'll bring up the web interface of the recorder. You're going to log in. When virtual host is enabled, it basically lets you piggyback through the LAN port into the internal PoE switch and access the cameras that way. There's a camera management section in the web interface for the recorder itself. So it's basically the way you're going to find it, camera management, and there's a URL directly to the camera. You're just going to click the link and it's going to bring you to, so if you have questions about that, that's something you can email me about. I'll send you a quick how-to. but it's pretty painless, not that difficult. Do you set up wide dynamic range on all your cameras?
No.
No, you don't want to do that. And again, with wide dynamic range, one important note, you can get the image looking great during the day, make sure it looks okay at night, because that filter doesn't always cross over to a night view, all right?
So why is it that, you do have to interface with it for the laptop?
Well, the engineers, in their infinite wisdom, did not decide to upgrade the NVR firmware to accommodate those feature sets at this time. Imagine at some point they will, but I think they consider things priorities and others not so much. And again, most people that have WDR either don't know they have it or don't set it up. So.
Well, when H.264 Plus first came out, you had to do it that way as well.
Yep.
And,
now it's included.
yeah, that was a pain.
I believe it's something with the priorities that they would have. I mean, if you're an engineer and you're looking at a complex product like this, you're going to say to yourself, okay, this is number one or four, let's do it eventually. Because they're, just like us, we're busy, got stuff to do. There's priorities. You got to do a little triage. Okay, image PTZ settings. You guys that are installing PTZs, thank you. You're helping me hit my quota. You're awesome. You can do all your presets, scores, etc. directly from here. Okay. Privacy maps. Okay, so this comes in handy. Say you have a residential complex or maybe a retirement complex, and there's a bunch of windows and things, and you need to get something maybe blocked out. Because of privacy concerns, maybe it's in an office and a receptionist is sitting right under a camera, not too happy about it. What you can do is you can go in and draw these little maps over the image. You get four, multicolored, and that actually stays stand on the video. There's no way to pull it off after the fact. Okay?
We have a wonderful customer who wants to have time zones for his landscape.
You don't do it.
No, yeah.
Tell them I hired someone with a sheet and a pair of paper in line. Send them out to schedule.
I'll tell him.
Tell them Tim said that. Okay. Video tampering detection. So basically, this is if anyone is to obscure your camera image, you can set up an alert based on that. So I'll set one up for the turret camera down there. So by default, there's, it doesn't care, it's just a blank space. I think by default, if you're going to enable this feature, it should be the whole scene, but it's not. Anyway, if I enable this feature and I draw a box around the whole scene, and I go into my settings, you can put that on the schedule. By default, it's 24/7. I'd want to know if someone was messing with the camera image 24/7. The linkage action is what's important here. So these linkage actions you're going to see me talk about again and again and again through the next steps of the training. So linkage actions are reactions. That's how we handle a situation that presents itself. So what we have are full screen monitoring. So if someone's hung a sweatshirt over your camera, full screen monitoring is not really going to do you a lot of good. You do have an audible warning, which is that chirp, which means you have to be within an earshot of the recorder, notify surveillance center, send email, or trigger alarm output. Okay? So for today's purposes, just for proof of concept, we're going to do a quick audible warning based on the image that camera is looking at, the turret camera at the end of the table being obscured. So I'll set the audible warning, I'll apply it, okay, apply it again, and basically what should happen is when I walk over here and I cover, thank you for working. So basically you see how that works. Just going to disable that. That's crazy there. Next, video loss, same rules. So if a camera's supposed to be recording and it's not recording, you can get an alert. Basically what you're going to do is you enable your video loss alarm, you go out to your settings, you put it on a schedule. This should mirror your recording schedule, and then again you have your linkage action here. If the camera's not recording, but it's based on a continuous schedule because it doesn't know the difference if it's doing that recording, unless it's not getting a video feed at all. I haven't done that.
A lot of problems we have in the field is that the IP cameras, they just start to deteriorate and they start going all scraggly and scrambly. Does the video loss detection have an advanced feature? It can start to tell when the camera's starting to go bad.
I mean, I haven't seen a lot of cameras go bad, to be honest. And, you know, to speak at that, every product that we have returned goes into HQ for evaluation, and they found that less than 1% of the product that was actually returned had a physical defect or anything that had to do with the manufacturing of the product.
Just like in the chip, like Gawa and all the others, they all started like, they have their different ways. Some go green, some start, you know, the lines don't
If you
match
see a
up.
Hikvision one, I want to know about it.
Okay.
I want to know about it. So, you know, if you're getting that, I mean, I've seen people bring me cameras and they say, this is bad, that's bad. I had a guy that put spray paint down the barrel connector of a turret camera, actually, spray paint down this barrel connector. And what happens when you plug that into a plug-and-play unit? It's shorted, so it thinks it's getting power and doesn't supply power to the camera. I found it because of the spray paint. The guy did a crappy job. I try my best to evaluate, you know, the cameras that are brought to my attention, but honestly, I have not seen a lot of failure from the product at all. And, you know, if it's happening, again, please bring it to my attention. All right, finally, we have VCAs, which is my favorite part of this entire section. So VCAs are a much more surgical approach to notification, especially in unpredictable environments like outdoors, okay? So how many times you get a customer comes up to you and says, I want a notification every time my front door camera detects motion? And how many of those customers that said they wanted it attached to email? They wanted an email notification. Yeah? And what happened? You get 8 million emails or a phone call from Google saying, sir, we're disabling your account. So the way to combat that is to use... Exactly. You're gonna set it up and they're gonna turn. Don't link promotion and email under any circumstances whatsoever if they value your time. That's my advice. That being said, the more surgical approach, as I mentioned before, we have a whole suite of analytics and just see them listed across the top. I'm not going to go over them all for the sake of time, but in my opinion, the two most valuable analytics are included in our Value and Value Plus cameras. Okay, those are the 1.3 and 3 and 2 and 4 megapixel cameras. It's all the orange and green section of the book, red shaded. So basically, the line cross, okay, the line cross is real simple. You go in, you draw a line, point A, point B, okay, so it's omnidirectional. The top of the line is shown as side A, the bottom is side B. So you can configure this line however it applies to your environment. So for example, if you had a parking lot and there was an entrance zone and the lot was closed after 5 p.m. Monday through Friday, what you would do is you go in and you say, okay, anyone crossing from side A to side B, because we define the directionality here in the programming, you can set a sensitivity. The higher the sensitivity, the smaller the object will trigger an alert, okay? The lower the sensitivity, it would only be a large object. So if you only want to know when 18-wheeler is pulled in, lower down that sensitivity. If you want to know when a leaf flows over the line, crank all the way up. That's going to vary on distance to target, etc. So, and this assumes that you're in an elevated position looking down, which makes it impossible to demo when sitting on a desk, unfortunately. But that being said, we'll program it to leave the sensitivity at 50%. We enable the line cross, and then we go into the rule setting. I'm sorry, just the main setting. First, we have trigger channels. Okay, so if I set up an analytic in this camera, and there's 3 additional cameras looking at the same scene, I only have to set up the analytic in one channel, and I can get pictures from the other 3 if I wanted to. By default, your trigger channel is the analytic you're setting up the camera in, and that's it. But again, if you have multiple cameras looking at the same scene, you may want to associate that with the initial analytic. Okay? Does that make sense? Good. So we'll leave it at the default right now. The arming schedule as applies to the environment. Linkage actions. We saw these before, right? Same way. So if we want to know about anytime someone crosses that line between 5 p.m. and 6 a.m., you set up the arming schedule accordingly, you set your linkage action, and if you have PTDs, we can also swing to a preset, predefined preset.
In the arming schedule, what is the quickest way to do 24/7?
That's the default. Yeah, that's the, yep.
Don't touch it, that's what you want.
Yep, exactly. Okay, so, anyone think that's more accurate than just random motion detection in a scene? Yeah, someone crossing a line. Of course, much more specific. So in addition to that, we have intrusion detection. Instead of a line, you're drawing a box, okay? A box could have a lot of applications. It could be a no parking zone. It could be a pool behind someone's house, and the kids aren't supposed to go in that pool after certain hours. So basically what you're doing, I'll just clear that real quick. We're drawing a box, 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll go into our rule settings. With the rule settings, we have a time threshold indicating how long something has to sit in the box for. We also have a sensitivity, meaning how much motion must be generated to trigger an alert. The percentage now is gone. There's an additional feature built into the camera. You have to dive into the camera currently. They're going to fix it in the firmware so you can actually draw out the minimal size of an object and maximum size of an object entering that box and trigger an alert. That's one of those things. Once that's done, you enable it. Settings, same thing. Trigger channels, your linkage action, and your schedule. And of course, for you PPE purchases. Okay, any questions on camera setup? We didn't do playback yet. Okay, jumping right through. Recording configuration. So by default, out of box, you plug cameras in, they start recording 24/7. That's out of box configuration. Some people like doing event-only recording, which is fine too. My personal preference is doing the continuous, but Hikvision way, okay? So we're going to leave this way. If you want to do event recording, don't mess with the top of the screen if you can help it. I like to do a little coloring. So you would just select event, for example. You color that in, you apply it, and then copy it to the rest of your cameras. Don't mess with the top of it, it's just confusing. We'll leave that back in continuous. And what we're going to do here is record quality. This is probably the area that gets screwed up the most in this industry, hands down. Every time I look at a site remotely, every time I'm there in person, I never see these settings correct, ever. So hopefully somebody's paying attention today. It'll save me a little trouble. That being said, you'll see on the left-hand side continuous, on the right-hand side event, okay? So assuming we had all the same cameras, we program everything, copy that to the balance. Make sense? We're going to go through each setting individually. The stream type, video. If you have an audio-enabled camera and you want to hear, not record, hear audio, you'll hit that drop-down and select video and audio. Okay? Make sense? Next, resolution. You want to make sure that's the highest that the camera can support. Obviously, you don't want to record a 4 megapixel camera at 2 megapixel resolution. By default, it should be the highest. But you just want to confirm that that's the 4 megapixel resolution. Next, bitrate type, variable. Leave it alone. You don't want constant bitrate. Just leave it variable. After that, video quality. Okay, so the quality refers to the amount of compression that we're applying to the video. More compression, you store video for a longer period of time, but it affects the quality of the video, so it's not as good. Okay? If you have the quality setting all the way up, you'll notice all this is going to come down to the max bitrate range recommended. So this number, based on the settings that we put in here, is going to fluctuate. This number down here, okay? So if I put my quality all the way up, it's currently at 2843 to 4733. My quality all the way up goes to 3.5 megabit versus to 5.9. Okay, so that's a considerable jump. If my quality all the way down, it's much lower. My recommendation is 3 bars. Okay, keep it simple. Okay, so for continuous recording, meaning recording all the time, that's essentially insurance video. Okay, events are when the camera sees motion or a VCA is triggered. When we're recording all the time, the frame